Today we're checking out one of the best-selling digital cameras of the last few years, the $140 Kodak Pro FZ55. Now I'll be honest, I came into this one pretty skeptical because usually when a cheap digicam like this goes viral, it's usually for one of two reasons. Either number one, it promises specs and capabilities that are just way beyond what it can actually deliver. Or number two, it leans into the whole old school vintage digicam aesthetic that's really trendy right now, and while the photos might look nostalgic and cool, it's just way overpriced for what it actually delivers. And at first glance, I really thought this camera would just fall into one of those two categories, until I started shooting with it. In good light, this can actually produce some pretty surprising results that are a lot better than I'd expect from, a budget point and shoot at this price point. That being said, it absolutely has some quirks and downsides that you should know about. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the FZ55 is actually capable of in the real world. I'm also going to compare it to a few other point and shoots at slightly different price points, as well as my iPhone. And then I'll come to the conclusion if this thing's worth its $140 price point. So without further ado, let's check out the FZ55. Okay, first up, I want to go over the specs. So this camera has a 16 megapixel sensor and it's a 1/2 inch sensor. So it has a similar sized sensor to other point and shoots. For example, the Canon ELPH 360HS has the exact same sensor size as this. So this isn't using one of those super cheap low resolution webcam sensors or anything like that most ultra budget scammers use. So that's at least our first good sign that they're not actually misleading you on the capabilities of this. And then for the lens, this has a 5x optical zoom lens. So it goes from 28 to 140 millimeter full frame equivalent. So anywhere from a somewhat wide angle all the way to pretty zoomed in at, like I said, 140 millimeter equivalent. For video quality, you get up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. So this does not do 4K video. 1080p is the max resolution, then it does have some lower resolutions as well that you can choose from. And those also allow you to shoot in higher frame rates, actually up to 120 frames per second in a really low resolution VGA mode. So while that is really low resolution, it is still pretty cool being able to even record 120 frame per second video with this, if you do want to do any type of slow motion video. For the body itself, it is this tiny, fully plastic body that doesn't really feel the best, but it does still feel a lot better than those super cheap $40, $50, or $60 cameras you can find online. I don't think this is just gonna break on you super easily with normal use, but I definitely would not want to drop this really any distance. It is for sure plasticky enough that I would expect this to crack pretty easily with any sort of drop. And then for the shape of the body and everything, it's pretty much just a rectangle. There's not much of a grip on this or anything, but it's small and light enough that, it's just easy to hold with a couple fingers. The only thing being, if you had really big hands, it would probably be kind of tricky just because how small this is with no real grip on it. Then as for the battery, this comes with just a lithium-ion rechargeable battery that charges with the micro USB port on the side of the camera. I'm pretty sure you can probably find spares for this online if you want to have a couple spares with you. Now the battery life isn't that great on this. It'll probably get you through, a really light day of shooting or maybe about a half day of shooting. I'd say based on the battery life, your best bet is going to be to have one or maybe two spares with you if you want a full day of use with this without having to worry about your battery. This is really a camera that's geared towards beginners. It's super simple to use. Most of the settings are automatic, but there is a full manual mode if you want to use it, which actually is a pretty cool feature that most cameras in this price range and of this type don't really have a full manual mode. But other than that, the menu is extremely simple with this. There's really not that many settings to change. Really everything about this camera is super simple and beginner oriented, but like I said earlier, this does have some downsides as well. First up, this can only shoot JPEG photos, which is pretty standard for most beginners. That's the type of photo your iPhone shoots, but that does mean it doesn't shoot any sort of raw photos. So they're not going to be the most versatile photo files for editing and things like that, especially if you want to import these into Adobe Lightroom and do some really extreme edits. JPEG photos really aren't the best for that. They're going to fall apart pretty quickly and really just aren't the best file types to do heavy edits with. Now, of course, I still personally edit edit most of the photos out of this camera, whether I just switch them to black and white or adjust some of the brightness, contrast, colors, saturation, and things like that. The files out of this camera just definitely aren't quite as versatile as raw photos would be. Next up, there is some stabilization in video mode, but in photo mode there's really no stabilization, which can make this camera pretty tricky to use handheld at long focal lengths or in darker low light conditions. A lot of times I got blurry photos with handshake in them. And really the biggest thing is the slow shutter speeds when you're in any sort of darker scenario. It can be a bit tricky shooting handheld with this. Next up, the screen itself is fine. It's like a 2.7-inch LCD screen. It's not a touch screen or anything, but it definitely struggles with brightness. So when you're outdoors and when the sun is glaring on the screen, it can be pretty tricky to see what you're looking at. And of course, there's no electronic viewfinder or anything on this camera. So the screen is your only way to see what you're looking at. And yeah, in any sort of bright conditions, it can be pretty tricky to actually see it. Now, lastly, for the downsides and quirks of this camera, the video quality is fine for simple, quick clips, but it's really nothing special or really hard to call it usable for most things when an iPhone would just be so much better for video quality. The video quality out of this camera struggles a lot more than the photos. This is something that I would really think hard about if you want to use this camera mostly for video. And if you specifically want this camera for video, I really just can't personally recommend it for that. But I'll show you some video examples so you can see what the quality is actually like. And kind of on that topic, the audio quality with the built-in microphone isn't really great. It can kind of get the job done for vlogging or things like that, but that's about it. Alright, so this is the FZ55 recording in 1080p 30 frames per second, and this is with the lens all the way zoomed out at about a 28mm full frame equivalent, and it's also wide open at f3.9. So this is the quality and the field of view you're going to get. I'm in my car right now, so it's a little bit cramped and a little bit darker than usual, but it'd also be a good test of the dynamic range. So you can see it's really bright out there, it's dark everywhere else in here. You can kind of see, how good or how bad the dynamic range is with this. Okay, next up, like I said, I compared this camera with a few other point-and-shoot cameras at different price points. So this is a Sony S2100. This is an older digicam that you can pick up used for right around $80 right now, sometimes a little bit less than that even. But of course, this is an older camera, so you can really only find this used. And then we have, of course, the $140 FZ55, and this is $140 brand new. And then I have the Canon PowerShot 360 HSA, which I also have a whole video about. I'll link down below. This is about a $380 camera brand new, and used is kind of a similar price. This is one of those cameras where the price jumped up a lot because of the whole digicam trend. And so this one is, almost 3 times the price of the FZ55. When this one is about half the price. And so I did some real world comparisons between these, and I'm gonna put those on screen. I'll maybe crop in, zoom in a little bit, so you can kind of look at the sharpness, maybe the background separation, the brightness, the noise and grain. I'll let you kind of do your own comparing between these cameras and just see if the price differences are worth it for any of these. And then after that, I'll get into my final conclusion, if the FZ55 is worth its $140 price tag. So how does the FZ55 hold up for $140? I would say if you want a simple, pocketable, dedicated camera that takes good looking photos in daylight and that isn't your phone, this is a pretty good option. And it's about the most affordable camera in that realm that I would recommend. Otherwise, your phone is just way, way better no matter what. A newer iPhone will definitely be better in low light than FZ55, but I do think you might enjoy the photos coming out of this a lot more than your iPhone if you just don't want the iPhone look anymore. If you want photos that actually look like they're from a real camera, you can obviously, for the most part, tell when a photo's from an iPhone. that's the case where I think the FZ55 is a pretty great option. However, if you really want to get into photography and learn about the art of photography, and you want to grow into photography, and that's the reason you want to buy a dedicated camera, nowadays you can get a used DSLR or even mirrorless camera at a similar price point to this that you can grow into, you can purchase lenses for, that shoots raw photos that you can edit in, photo editing software and learn about that whole aspect of photography. And really, if you want something that's a real camera that you can learn with and grow with in the future, something with interchangeable lenses I think is a much better option for most people that want to learn about photography. And so that's my conclusion on the FZ55, but let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think the FZ55 is worth its $140 price tag, or are there better options out there? Either way, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one.